Hi everybody, we're going to study together the Sefat Emet, which we started to learn on Tanit Esther. Sefat Emet has a basic question. The Zohar seems to imply that the Meraglim, the reason why the Meraglim were motivated to convince the nation that they shouldn't want to go into the land of Israel was because Hacha Anan Reshin, here in the desert we are the Reshin, Uba'ara lo nizki liot Reshin. When we get into Eretz Yisrael, we will not be the Reshin anymore. So the Sefat Emet points out that it's hard to believe that such noble people, as the pasuk calls them, anashim, kulam anashim, they were people of stature, people of nobility, that they would have such a personal nigi'ah, he calls it nigi'at atzmotam here in the third line, that they would have such a personal desire to be so scared of their power, so power hungry. It's hard to believe that that's really what it was, what the Zohar is trying to say. He goes on to write, Aval nira leva'er inyan ki dor hamidbar bichlal hayu bechinat harosh. Really what we're referring to is the entire generation of Am Yisrael that was now the Dor Sheyatza Mitzrayim, as he writes, Ki Ador Sheyatza Mitzrayim v'shamu hadibro b'Sinai heim rashin l'chol dorot. So what's the Zohar referring to? Hacha anan reshin, here were the Rosh. Here were the Rosh means we, the original founding generation of Am Yisrael, we are the head, the beginning of all of Am Yisrael. And he writes, "V'hadorot nimshachim b'mchinat avot v'toldot merishin v'ad raglin." And the Jewish people are like a body. Jewish history is like a body. The Rosh represents the first generation in Jewish history, which is the Dor Yotzei Mitzrayim, the generation that were slaves and were redeemed and went through Matan Torah and Kriyat Yamsuf, etc. And the Toldot, the generations that would follow, from the head all the way down to the feet, as all the rest of Jewish history. K'moshe Katuv, Al Dorotenu Ikva Demishicha, as it's written on the generations of the Ikva de Demishicha, the times of Mashiach, which will be like the legs, the feet of the body. Achein Dor Midbar Hayu Kulam Bechinat Reshin. So we see that the generation of the desert, they were the level of the Rosh, the level of the head. Ubevadai Emet Hadavar. Ki haknisa la'aretz haya madriga achar madriga veheim lo ratzu shiplu mi madrigat reshin. What were they scared of? They said, if we go into Eretz Yisrael, we're going to fall from the level of the Rosh. We're going to fall from the level that we were on, this great spiritual level of Matan Torah and Kriyat Yamsuf. And they were worried that going into Eretz Yisrael was actually going to bring them down a notch. V'dor hamidbar hayalahem hitgalut kvodo yiparach. It's unbelievable what they were able to experience in the desert, the Har Sinai, the Kriyat Yamsuf. The level of revelation and nevuah and spirituality was on a very, very, very incredible level. Kedimyon hikalut neshama barosh. The level of an incredible high perception of spirituality. Ubevada, he writes, Mi shehu b'makom elyon, a person who's on such a high level, kashelo lipol madriga tachtona. It's really difficult for them to go down a level. K'moshe kasher el neshama laredet lamata. The same way that the neshama, the spiritual part that's inside of our guf, that's inside of our body. This is a very common idea within the thought of Chassidut. The competition or the tension between the neshama and the guf. The neshama doesn't really want to be here in this world. The neshama wants to be up in the spiritual world with God, connected to only spiritual things. Down in this world, it has to be part of the physicality. It's very hard for the neshama to come into this world when a baby is born. Ubal korcho adam nivra. Man is created against his will, meaning maybe it would have been better for man not to have been created, because then the neshama doesn't have to come into this world. But the Meraglim, the generation, the Meraglim who were acting on behalf of that generation, they should have said, we're so worried about what's going to happen to us in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem is promising them, you go into Eretz Yisrael, it's going to be fine. Right? So they should have said, whatever Ratzon Hashem is, if Ratzon Hashem is that we want to go into, that we should go into Israel, then Ratzon Hashem is that Eretz Yisrael is not going to be necessarily a letdown, a downgrade in spirituality. Ulavin mamar chachamenu, and he quotes here from the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Yafeh sha'achat b'tshuva masim tovim ba'olam hazeh mikol chayei olam haba. 1 hour of tshuva or good deeds in this world is greater than the entire experience of olam haba. And he writes about this in other places as well. What is the Sefat Emet trying to teach us? The mistake and the downfall of the Meraglim is very simple. They believed that going into Eretz Yisrael was going to be a downgrade in Ruchniut, a downgrade in spirituality. And they said, we're the Rosh, we're the first generation, we're the beginning of Am Yisrael, we're the top, what we experienced, the Hit Galut, the miracles, the Nisim. Eretz Yisrael is not going to provide us with any of that. That's what they believed. Ratzon Hashem was, no, you have it all wrong. And this is my reading into the Sefat Emet. Eretz Yisrael is a different madrega altogether. Eretz Yisrael is entering into a world, yes, it's more natural, yes, it's less miraculous, but there's something about that which is actually a higher madrega. Don't think that desert life with miraculous, with the be'er, with the anan, with the man, you think that that's real life. That's not real life. That's not what it means to be on a high madrega. To be on a high madrega is to live in Eretz Yisrael, to go to Eretz Yisrael, and to be part of that struggle. That's what gets you to the higher level. That's what he says. Yafeh sha'achat b'tshuva masim tovim. 1 moment in this world of what you can accomplish, of the physical world, that outweighs the entire experience of Olam Haba. Because once you leave this world, you can no longer do mitzvot that you can accomplish while you were here in this world. Continuing now through Perak Yud Gimel, we looked at the beginning of the Perak, the ascending of the Meraglim, Vayishlach otam Hashem bar paran al pi Hashem kulam anashim. We spoke about the anashim. Then we get to the list of all the names, Psukim Daled through Tedvav, and at the end we have a very strange passage. Elu shmod anashim asher shalach Moshe l'tor ha'aretz v'yikam Moshe Hoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. Moshe calls Hoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. These are the names of all the people that Moshe sent to scout the land, and Hoshea's name is changed to Yehoshua. So Rashi on the spot wonders why Moshe changes Yehoshua's name from Hosea. What was wrong with Hosea? It's like, his parents called him that. What's he doing changing his name? So Rashi writes, Hitpalel alav. Moshe was actually davening for Yehoshua. What was he davening for? His prayer was Ka Yoshiacha me'atzat meraglim. His prayer was actually his name. Changing the name Hosea to Yehoshua, adding the Yud, was actually putting God into his name, giving him a little bit of a power to his name. And that power was supposed to be a protective shield. It's kind of divine protection that Yehoshua should be given to not be get involved with the Meraglim. Ka Yoshiacha, Hashem should save you from the plot of the Meraglim. Very interesting concept here that Moshe had to daven on Yehoshua's behalf. We don't find that Moshe did that by any of the other Meraglim. More specifically, he didn't do it by the other scout, who we know also did not give a negative report, and that person's name was Kalev. You have here a description of everything that Moshe told them to look for. We're going to come back to all of this soon. When they finally go on their journey in Pasuk Chav Bet, it reads like this: Vayalu b'Negev, vayavo ad Hebron. They went up in the south, so the journey started in the southern part of Israel. Rashi points out that the reason they went in the Negev is because it's the desert. There's not so many nice things there, so wanted to save the nicer parts of the land of Israel for the later part of the trip. So that's why they started in the south. You could also just say simply they started in the south because that was the direction they were coming from. Nonetheless, it continues, Vayavo al Hebron. Vayavo al Hebron. And he came to Hebron. Who is he? So it doesn't say in the Pasuk who he is, but it's clear that somebody came to Hebron alone, and the Meraglim, the rest of the Meraglim, were perhaps not there, or they were on the road, they went somewhere else, and one person stopped off to go to Hebron. who was the individual that went to Hebron. So Rashi identifies him as Pesuchav Bet, Kalev Levado Halach Sham V'nishtateach Al Kivrei Avot. Kalev went himself to Hebron. We know Hebron being famous for Ma'arat Machpelah. He went there to daven and to get strength from the Kivrei Avot, the graves of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and their spouses. Obviously, we know Rachel was not buried in Ma'arat Machpelah. We learned that in the book of Yirmiyahu. Nonetheless, this is where Kalev went. Shelo yehei niseit lechaverav liot batzatam. Very interesting. What was he going there to daven for? He was going there to daven that he shouldn't be persuaded to the plan of the rest of the group of the Meraglim. Now, how does Rashi know that it was Kalev and not any of the other Meraglim who went to Hebron? After all, just says Vayavo at Hebron. There are some theories, by the way, among some of the commentators that say that the Meraglim didn't actually travel together. They traveled in groups of 2, 6 groups of 2, so that they could cover more ground in a shorter amount of time. And Vayavo Hebron suggests that whoever Kalev had been traveling with, we'll see in a minute how Rashi got there, whoever Kalev had been traveling with did not go with him. There are other proofs to this from other points in the story that they didn't travel in a group of 12. We'll try to come back to some of that when we learn it inside in class. Rashi continues, V'chein Omer. Again, Rashi quoting now from the recounting of the story that Moshe gives in Dvarim, chapter 1, Perak Aleph, Pasuk Lamed Vav. V'lo, and to him, etein et haaretz asher darach ba. V'lo is referring to Kalev. That's the context. The reward that Kalev was given for his participation in the mission, and also his lack of participation, meaning he didn't follow what the other Meraglim did of bringing the negative report. So Hashem promised him that he's going to give him this land, the land that he walked on. What's this land? Uchtiv, later in Shoftim, we see that in fact Kalev was given Hebron, Vitnula Kalev at Hebron. Kalev was given the city of Hebron as a prize, as a gift, as a reward for his righteous behavior. Now here's where it gets interesting. Why is it that Moshe davens for Kalev, but he doesn't daven, Moshe davens for Yehoshua, but he doesn't daven for Kalev? So this is a question I'm actually going to leave you off with, but just to put one more piece of the puzzle in place, if you jump to chapter 14, Bamidbar Yud Daled, and we look at the aftermath of the Cheder Meraglim, where God is going through the rewards, the punishments, and the rewards of the Meraglim, you have here a very interesting pasuk. Va'avdi Kalev in pasuk Avdal. Va'avdi Kalev ekev hayta ruach acheret imo. Kalev had a different spirit about him. Vayimalech harayin, he went after me. V'havioti v'la'aretz asher b'shama v'zar'o yorishan, and I will bring him into the land that they're going to come to, and his descendants will inherit it. What about Yehoshua? Yehoshua doesn't get a reward? I thought Yehoshua was also righteous and didn't follow the trap of the Meraglim. So what's going on here? It seems that Kalev is getting preferential treatment. Rashi writes on that pasuk, and we'll finish with this. Ruach acheret, shtei ruchot, achat bepeh, va'achat balev. Kalev had 2 spirits, one in his mouth and one in his heart. In other words, la Meraglim amar ani imchem be'etzah. When he was speaking to the Meraglim, he said, I'm with you, I agree with whatever you want to say about Eretz Yisrael. I'm on the same page. Ubelibo, and in his heart, hayalomar ha'emet. In his heart, he would say the truth. Vayedei kain, hayabo koach la'ashtikam. And through that, he was able to stand up to them, as we see at the end of Perakim Gimel. Vayas Kalev, he stood up, he quieted the crowd. He said, we can do it, we can go. Shayus farim shiomar kon motam. Everybody thought when Kalev got up, they said, all along he's been saying, I'm with you. So they thought he was going to say something disparaging. But he didn't, because he was able to have the inner fortitude to say something different. Zeu shenamar b'sefer, Yehoshua v'ashivo todavar kasher milavi. I responded to them what was in my heart. V'lo kasher impi, not that which was in my mouth.